afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is John with Tommy's Top Picks, here to bring you your weekly Flesh and Blood market update that isn't weekly because I missed a week last week. I'm so sorry. Today we have some box prices to talk about, some changes in the market, a few things happened that's worth talking about in the Flesh and Blood market. Also have some updates from the economic side. The Fed did have its FOMC meeting and came out with its notes. I believe there were some other key and interesting things to talk about around collecting and what's going on with Mist Vale, and it's potentially being sold out. So let's dive in and we'll chat about it, and hope you are willing to sit back, relax, and just listen as we go, because this one will probably take a little while to meander through and ramble on. It's later in the day for me as opposed to trying to do it before work, which is, like I said a few weeks ago, I'm going to try to change this up a little bit. And so that gives me a little more time to focus and talk about what I want to talk about. Hopefully that doesn't bother you. Let me know in the comments if it does. All right, so let's jump in first and foremost to the boxes, the general market, the update everyone is here for. It's kind of mixed. There's not a whole lot happening. We do have a big jump in a few boxes and then a big decrease in some old stuff that came back to market for the first time in quite some time. That's exciting. Even though it's down, it's exciting that it's actual real prices. Yeah, so WTR unlimited cases up 9.62% to 260 from 235. Not a huge deal. You know, we were at 264 a month ago, but it is that recovery that we thought we would see. I will say, just before we get too far into it, I did capture the data for last week. It was caught on the Friday, so this date is a lie. Oh, you can't say it. Yeah, you can. This date is a lie. It wasn't the 24th. It was the 25th, I believe. Let me double check the calendar real quick. I believe that's true. Yeah, it was. Oh, yeah, it wasn't. Oh, wait, I have it all wrong. That's supposed to be the 25th, and it was the 26th. I'm going to change it right now. We changed it, and today is the 2nd. Yeah. Okay, so I caught it on the Friday. I came back Thursday. I was jet-lagged. I grabbed the data anyways because I'm a glutton for punishment, and I can't let it go. I can't let you down, you know? I have to do it. I have to grab the data. It's important to me. So I didn't go over it. I was tempted to do a recording. I started to set myself up for a recording, but I was so jet lagged. I'm like, I'm falling asleep while I'm doing this. I cannot do a recording. It will be the most disappointing thing ever. But I did capture the data. As you can see, it was a general down market. A few upticks. Point being, back to WTR unlimited cases. We are back to where we were a month ago. We had a dip last week, but it was somewhat of an artificial dip, if you will, because we're back to the same prices we were before. That meaning that 9.62% is really not that notable. We just got a 1 week dip and recovery. We see it all the time. All the data shows this. It happens all the time for products. Moving on to Tales of Aria First Edition boxes, up 6.38% to 47 from 44, which is where it was 2 weeks ago. So again, same thing. We saw a dip and a recovery. No big deal. I feel like people were trying to sell while I was gone, and that's why there's so many dips last week. Is that what happened? Let me know if you were selling while I was gone, trying to sneak it in there so I couldn't catch the data. I caught the data. All right, moving on to the actual interesting and big news, I guess. I don't know how big it is, but it's worth noting. It's worth, remarking upon. WTR First Edition case is back for sale on TCG Player, down 128% from this incredibly fake number that we've been talking about for I don't know how long now. A heck of a long time, that's for sure. Months, maybe even a year at this point. Let's see. When was the first time? Let's just look. June. So not quite a year, right? But these fake prices do go back a year. This 40,000 and 20,000 way back here. I don't remember why I highlighted that yellow, but yeah. Basically probably to say this is BS, don't buy into this, don't believe it. And here we are a year later, and we finally get a price that I think is trying to be real. And the reason I think that is because this price we know is real, and I think that's a reasonable adjustment for WTR versus ARC. Am I wrong? I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you think I'm full of shit. I'm okay with that if I am. Basically, it's hard to say on something this limited. There's just not that many out there. $12,000 for a case of WTR. I'm not buying at that price. That said, it may be a decent price. It may be a reasonable market price. We'll see if any sell. I doubt we'll be able to tell. It'll probably say the market data isn't enough and not show us. But it's interesting. It is available at this price to buy. If you wanted to buy it right now, you can, which means real price, maybe 2K lower. You could probably get for 10K in a Facebook group or something. I don't know. ARC, I can tell you this. There are people buying lower than this price. There's people selling Card Shop Live, specifically, like go look at it, for this price. So this is a real price, actual buyable. People have not been buying it. We've talked about it a couple times. And this is ARC is $599 or $5,999. This is the same price Card Shop Live has had it on for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it's now on TCG Player at this price. No volume, no sales. Don't count it as a real price, but this does anchor the market. It does let us know where people are not buying it, because if they were buying it, it'd be gone, right? It's worth noting and realizing that, the old stuff is cooling off and coming down quite a heavy bit here, and that's where we are in this market. Heavy hitters up you can't see that. Let me scroll down. Heavy hitters up 4.4% to 318 from 304. Really fast recovery. We talked about this before, these general dips and how fast they've gotten with the latest, kind of 2.0 products. I think that's going to continue to be the case. And the reason I think that, and this is one of the points of discussion that I wanted to get to, and Tommy pointed out, Tommy allowed me to discover it. I don't know. No, he did point it out. Yeah, he looked at it himself. We had a request. Can I buy Mistveil? Can I pre-order with you? Our pre-order window through the distro that we work with is closed. And we went to look to see if there's a way to order it, not pre-ordered, but basically first wave after pre-order. It's not available. It's not listed. I double-checked. I triple-checked. I looked at all the ways, and it is just not there. So Mistveil pre-order sold out already. Is this a huge thing? Does that mean it's going to balloon? Is it going to go, one piece on us? No, it's not going to go one piece. They have been, and we've talked about this a lot, through all of 2.0, Uprising and beyond, adjusting the initial release waves. And I've pointed it out in the data again and again and again and again that each release, you're seeing the check mark, that swoosh that I like to see, that upward bend, happen faster. It's because they're doing the wave thing that James White described. I think it was Queensland? I don't remember. Somewhere. There was some event. He did an interview. I think it was with Fluke. Basically, he said, look, we have our own warehouses now. We're releasing in waves to distribution, and they've been tightening it up every single set since Uprising. It has gotten tighter and tighter and tighter so that the check mark happens a little bit faster. We've talked about it many times on this channel, and now we're seeing it come to the fullest fruition where Parting the Mistveil sold out before release. Is it out forever? Is it gone? Should you FOMO? No. Absolutely not. They're doing it in waves. They've described that, and they have continued to do that, and we see it in the market data. And what has happened is they're trying to keep it at map because the dip has been sticky and painful and difficult to deal with for stores. So what they're doing is limiting the release boxes so that there's more hype and more demand, and it keeps the prices up. Hopefully that works. Hopefully they have the print runs limited to a point there it makes sense, both from a financially viable and profitable standpoint for them, and for a market standpoint for shops and that sort of thing. I don't know. We won't know until the data's out, and we won't know until we get to see it. But this is a new turn on the market, and you'll note that this is already back up to map. On that note, their enforcement is on point. And I'll talk about that. We talked about it on the podcast. But if you didn't listen to the end, you didn't hear about it. I go into a bit more detail there. So go back and listen to it if you want to hear about it. But basically, I got yelled at by LSS. I was about to go on my trip to Denver. I was posting a bunch of stuff. I knew the shop was going to be offline. I was going to turn on at the very end of my trip so that I'd have orders to fulfill when I came back. I put a bunch of extra boxes up there. I have UPR. I got some stuff from Rudy, like random boxes and stuff. And I have some other stuff. I think Dust Till Dawn, Evo. I basically have extras. And I threw it up there, and I just hit lowest because I want to sell them. I want to get them off my shelves. I need the room for other stuff. I'm cycling things. And so I put them up there, clicked the button, launched it, turned the shop on while I was still out in Denver, coming back the next day. Come back, bleary-eyed, lack of sleep, lots of hiking, jet lagged, etc., and having to do a day of work. And I get this notice from LSS, and they're like, "We noticed you're below MAP, but we also know you might not know what that is. So here's a link to what MAP and MAP policy is. Please change it, or there could be consequences." They lay out the consequences in the little article. It's really not that big a deal. They're very straightforward with it. They're friendly about it. It's not like you suck, we hate you, sort of thing. It's just totally like, this is our policy. Here's what we'd like you to do. And if you don't, we can, cancel your relationship with distro, or put in place, what do they call it? The don't use our trademark thing, like don't use our material to make money sort of thing, whatever it is. I think that actually has limited effect for a company like us, because we don't have a direct distro relationship. We're in a group, so we're not actually directly tied to distro. And then also, I guess they could prevent us from using logos on the YouTube video site that doesn't have 1,000 subscribers, so we don't make any money on it. I'm not sure if it would actually work in U.S. law. I don't care. I don't want to try to skirt the rules or anything. I didn't even mean to. I just clicked the button. It was just one of those things. I was busy trying to pack up and leave. So anyways, I changed them all back to MAP. Hopefully they're okay with that. I haven't heard anything back from them, but I did throw something in there because I have noticed with a couple of shops that have gotten on the bad side of LSS, suddenly they just go very quiet about it. And I want to be honest and open with you guys as much as I can. And if they sent a letter because I screw up and miss something or whatever, I want to make sure that you knew that I screw up. So I put a warrant canary in the description of all of our videos going forward. It's literally just says something like, I actually don't know, it says something like LSS has not asked us to not talk about them or something, something very basic. And then I put warrant canary link to Wikipedia in there, basically saying if that ever disappears, you'll know that we have gotten a legal notice from LSS and we're not allowed to talk about them anymore. I don't think that will happen. I've seen multiple content creators that I'm pretty sure got those legal notices and then they went on and talked about them later and nothing happened. So I really don't think it's a big deal. I really don't see them as that crazy or whatever, but just in case I threw it in there, just so you know, because I want to be as open and honest with you as I can. I always try to be. So let's move on to a little bit of news before we jump into some cards in the charts. First thing, Fed, FOMC. It happened today. I waited to record this basically based on trying to get the notes for that. And what it looks like is going on is the economy is staying too strong. I am very worried, if you were listening to me, I don't know, maybe a year ago, that we are doing the thing I really hoped they wouldn't do, which is leading us into stagflation. Go back and listen to some of my other videos if you want to hear about my thoughts on that. I thought they were going to try to do a faster crash to do a recovery. That is what the historic pattern had been in the past decade or so. That is not what they did. They're trying for this soft landing thing. I should have known that was a risk factor when I heard about it. I think I've been a little more positive on it than I thought. I assume they had better data and were smarter. I'm starting to question that situation. Reality is stagflation is really dangerous, and a crash is better than stagflation because recovery happens faster. I don't know. We're starting to see some signs of it in a negative way. We're starting to see some negative economic indicators. And then that aside, there's the other factors that are coming into play, which is quantitative tightening. We talked about that 2-3 weeks ago, something like that. Oh, no, it's probably a month ago or two at the FOMC meeting. So you might have to, if you want to hear about it, just check for the middle of the video sort of thing. What happened with that is that they announced this was going to start happening. This time they announced when it's going to start happening, basically slowing the quantitative tightening. I believe it was 80 billion a month originally. And that is, they were letting bonds lapse, so they buy treasuries from the government, allows more liquidity in the market, and then they unwind that by letting them sell off. So basically, they reach maturity, they take the money back in, and they don't replace them. Whereas usually they cycle stuff. And so they were doing that at a pace of 80. Now they're slowing it down to 25 billion a month, I believe. It's either a month or a quarter. It's less than half. It's a pretty significant chunk of difference. That means they're slowing the quantitative tightening, which means we're going to see a variance in the liquidity of the market. And it's basically called a prelude step to interest rate hikes. Basically, it's not time to do interest rate hikes yet, but we're starting to see some weakness, but we're still seeing some strength. So we don't want to do interest rates hikes yet. So they said they're keeping it the same. This is where I get really nervous, because this is that razor thin line where it looks like stagflation may end up happening from an institutional interference as opposed to, well, I guess it's always some sort of institutional interference. The last big stagflation was oil price embargoes and stuff. So it does happen. What it boils down to at this point, and the thing that we're seeing is, if this doesn't get the economic situation in a better alignment, which I honestly don't think it will. This leads to signs of equities booming, some more liquidity essentially in the market because it's not pulling it out as fast. So you're slowing the rate of removal. Then I think we're going to see more bullish markets in a couple different areas. Not every area, because the way it impacts the markets and how it plays in and ripples through, but you are going to start to see it. Now, that does not mean back to the old days of everything is tendies. That's not going to happen. But it is a first step in that direction, and it does worry me because we're still seeing relatively strong inflation, relatively strong growth of jobs, and a bunch of different factors that are just saying we're not at a point where we should be halting this yet. That said, usually they wait too long to do this stuff and it crashes really, really hard. I would have preferred a fast crash, 2 years ago when they first started this stuff. So I said back then, try to avoid too much pain. It doesn't look like they went that way, and we are where we are, right? So, buckle up, Buttercup, as Rudy likes to say. We're going to see some interesting things by the end of the year regarding this, I suspect. But I've been saying that for a while, and I feel bad because usually I'm not wrong on these things, but man, this has been a weird one. This has been a weird one. New mechanics playing out. I said in the beginning, they will be writing economics chapters on this economic situation. This is a unique one in history of all economic studies. So fascinating to watch, but also hard to predict. All right, moving on. Yeah, I already talked about that. Oh, yeah. Let's do some cards. All right. Oh, I did it again. I meant to fix this. Sorry. There we go. Yeah. Marvels. So, the rule of collecting flesh and blood is wait for the hero to LL. It's not a good rule. This is one of the sad parts about Flesh and Blood for me, and this kind of where we are with it. And I'm hoping it will change eventually, but it's just not there yet. Best time to buy dragons is after dragons are useless. And if you're not sure about that, you don't believe me, let's just go look at good old, where the heck is it? Tomotai. $99 from $250 at its peak down to $99, or $260, whatever it was. Sad story. Dromai LL'd. When does she come back? Does she use dragons? Does she use Ash? Can she use these dragons? Does she need new dragons? How does it work, right? None of that's known. Timing's unknown. This dragon may never recover. I think it's very realistic probability based on what we've seen with other heroes that they've brought back and how other things that would have been considered collectible, I'm looking at Prism, became less collectible on the second run of the hero. It's just not how it works. It is worth the most value during the highest hype, and then over time it decreases in value with a long tail of perhaps going up over time on nostalgia and those sorts of things. But generally speaking, your best buy time is after LL. And then from there, if it goes up on rarity and lack of volume and that sort of thing, there's your good upside, low downside risk. When it's hot, when it's new, when it's even relatively interesting in the meta, your downside risk is huge. We're talking 50% or more, 250, 260 down to 90 or more. So 50% cut or more at LL. Just take that into account. LL will cut your card in half. So keep that in mind when trying to collect Marvels and looking at these sorts of things. It really is an unfortunate situation, but that's just the reality the market tells us. This data shows us. The dragons are worth $10 now. It's across the board. Can things go up? Yeah. You might get something that uses one of these weapons and it goes up. It's happened. For the most part, 9 out of 10 have gone down and had massive crashes. That's just how it is. What was this before? Jeez, I think, what was this before? Didn't this have like a huge price at one point? Okay, only $80. I swear it was worth more than that at one point. But yeah, it's one of those things. Unfortunately, the collectible cards of the collectible cards is not really that collectible in any reasonably short amount of time. They become long-term, possibly. We don't know. Question mark, unproven at this point, but it is one of those things that's worth keeping an eye on if you are collecting Flesh and Blood and how to collect it. I'm not sure where the place to put money is, honestly, except for either new product to sell immediately, crack packs, sell good stuff, maybe. I don't know if the EV supports that, or I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure how you buy Flesh and Blood and then sell it in a reasonable amount of time and make money in any way other than buy staples of the playability of an upcoming set before the upcoming set is announced and then sell it into the hype of the upcoming set, but not necessarily once the meta comes out, because if the meta isn't good for that upcoming set that people were hyped about, it drops again. So I don't know. I'm not sure if you know a place where you can stick money reasonably in a pattern that makes sense. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. But that's my current take on it. I don't know. These charts aren't really worth looking at, but we'll go for it anyways. Unlimited WTR. Here it is. All we're seeing is this reconfiguration of the case price to match this hop in the box price. We talked about that either here or here, basically saying, yeah, it's going to pop back up or this will drop back down. We're seeing it pop back up. Tales of Aria, why not? Why not? Hey, we already hit open. Yeah, nothing here. It's just, reconvening like it does. Tales of Aria does this every time. It's the dinosaur, man. Hashtag Brontosaurus, if you know what I'm talking about. If you were there, you know. If you know, you know. That is it for my Flesh and Blood market update. I hope you guys are out there cracking packs, playing games, and enjoying this hobby that we love. Until next time, have a good one.